Hey everyone, and welcome back to your fourth stimulus package and news update. In today's update, we have a lot to get into, including the next relief package, where members of Congress fight over what the best path forward is. We'll also be discussing the child tax credit payments and why you may not have received your direct deposit last week. I'll also be going over the $1,000 checks expected to be mailed out to some people within the next week or so. And finally, I'll also be going over some other news, mainly the sad situation going on in Afghanistan. But before I get into today's video, if you would like to receive a couple of free stocks from Webull, valued up to $2,300, make sure to claim them by clicking my link in the description box below. Okay, so starting off today's update, I first wanted to quickly touch base on the two bills that President Biden is looking to push through Congress. The first being the bipartisan infrastructure bill that recently passed in the Senate, and then the more partisan Democrat favorite bill that includes $3.5 trillion more in spending. Since passing the bipartisan infrastructure bill in the Senate last week, there have been two completely different thought processes among members of Congress. On the liberal side, think AOC, Rashid Tlaib, and the other members of the squad, they've had the thought process of, hey, even though the bipartisan infrastructure bill has passed, we're not even going to touch, much less hold a vote on the bill. Instead, we're going to hold the bipartisan package hostage until the Senate also passes the other bill that we really like. That bill, of course, is the $3.5 trillion bill based more on human infrastructure. Instead of things such as roads and bridges, think more along the lines of an extension of the child tax credit, free community college, free child care, etc. So the liberal Democrats don't want the bipartisan bill to be passed and then see hiccups as far as passing the more expensive bill. They feel that by holding the bipartisan bill up, they can put pressure on the more moderate Democrats and the Senate to get the reconciliation bill through as quickly as possible. Then of course, we have the thought process of the more moderate Democrats who have the thought process of, we already have this bipartisan bill in our chamber, just pass in the Senate. So why don't we go ahead and vote on it, pass it through our chamber, and then send it off to President Biden's desk to be signed into law. Then we can get started on all these infrastructure packages as soon as possible. Then, only at that point, we can focus our efforts on the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. The moderate Democrats led by Representative Gottheimer have no interest in holding up the bipartisan bill just to wait for the other bill, which could take months to be passed. Let's listen to Congressman Gottheimer explain his position on exactly what's going on.
Well, thanks for having me. And as you pointed out, this is critically important that we get this done and that we don't wait months and risk squandering this opportunity. You know, you're talking about 2 million jobs a year, obviously fixing roads, bridges, rail, getting that gateway tunnel between New York and New Jersey built, not to mention all the policies to help the climate, electric vehicles and broadband. So what we fear is if we wait months, this will never get done. And the president said when the Senate passed this incredible bipartisan piece of legislation, as you said, it's once in a century historic piece of legislation. He said, the president, let's get it to my desk as soon as possible. So what we believe is the path forward here is let's vote on this. Let's vote on it this month. And then, of course, we can then move on with considering other legislation, including the budget process, which will lead us to reconciliation. And that's, we believe, the best path forward for the country, you know, built on momentum. And, of course, you've got great support here from labor and from the Chamber of Commerce, so let's seize upon this opportunity now.
So Gottheimer is saying, hey, even the president said, let's get this bill to my desk as soon as possible. Therefore, they really shouldn't be holding the bill up and delaying any of this momentum. He also said he has fears that if they wait months to pass it in the House, then this will never get done. Gottheimer is then asked, since Pelosi really can't afford to ignore either side of her party, the moderate or the liberal side, and she only has 3 votes to lose, what happens? Does she give in to the liberal Democrats and ignore the bipartisan bill, or does she listen to the more moderate Democrats and instead decide to allow for the bipartisan bill to be voted on?
And if she's got both ends of the party squeezing her, what happens?
Well, I think the smartest solution here is to do exactly what they did in the Senate. And you presented that very well, Becky, right? Not to wait for the next piece of legislation, but what they said in the Senate was, okay, let's vote now on the infrastructure package, which they did, and you had 19 Republican senators and all 50 Democratic senators, including Bernie Sanders, vote for this historic, once-in-a-century bipartisan infrastructure legislation. And then they moved to consider and then voted on the budget resolution, which starts the reconciliation process, as you pointed out, which will then lead to another package. The size and scope, right, we'll still debate that, whether right now they presented it as $3.5 trillion. Obviously, there's lots of issues there, and we'll discuss the revenue side of that, and obviously that target spending and make sure that's the right levels and right programs. But that's the next debate we can have. But they did it in that order for a good reason. We've got a great win sitting here for the country to get those millions of jobs to work, get the shovels in the ground, and not wait and not risk waiting months potentially. And this could take months to consider the next reconciliation package. They said, let's get this done now. And so all we're saying to the speaker is, let's follow that same course. I'm not sure why some of my colleagues, as you pointed out, are standing in the way of that and want to obstruct the president's agenda. I mean, this is what the president said: get it to my desk as soon as possible. And there's a lot of support from that in the country. And so I'm hearing back home. So let's just get that done. Let's take the win for the country. And then, of course, move on to the next piece of legislation to consider, and we can have that debate.
He believes, of course, that the best path forward is for Nancy Pelosi to hold a vote on the bipartisan bill and then move forward with other pieces of legislation. So Gottheimer is saying this bill has a lot of bipartisan support, including citizens in our own country, so there's really no point in holding this bill up. Gottheimer is then asked a bit trickier of a question in regards to whether or not he believes Pelosi is considering giving in to the pressure that she's receiving from the moderate Democrats.
What reaction did you get from the Speaker's office? And I guess from the one side, this could look like you are putting her in a very difficult position. From another, you could be helping her out if she wants to go ahead and pass this legislation too, and says to the left wing of her caucus, hey, we have to do this. There's no other way around it.
Well, yeah, I think this is about helping the country out, and I think helping the party out. We're all going to look good.
What did they say, Josh? What was the reaction you got from the Speaker's office?
I think she's at work and looking for a solution. We've been talking about it, and I think we'll find, frankly, based on all my conversations, and I'm not getting into all the details of my conversations with leadership and others, but the outcome is we'll find a solution here, and that's what I'm optimistic about. We're going to keep talking. We'll work this through, and we'll work it out. And it's about getting this done for the country and for the president, and we'll do it. So Becky, I'll tell you that I'm optimistic that we'll figure this out. I think it's very important that we don't back off of this path, though, which is voting first on infrastructure and then considering the budget resolution. And there's enough of us who really feel strongly about that we're gonna hold our guns here and we'll figure out a solution.
So he sort of avoids that question, and in a private caucus call on Tuesday, the Democratic leaders stood strongly by their plans to align the two bills together. It seems like, at least for now, the more liberal Democrats in the House have a stronger hold on their party than what the moderate Democrats do. With that said, it should be quite interesting to see how all this unfolds and which side will decide to give in first. In some other news, in the state of Florida, $1,000 checks are expected to be sent out to firefighters, police, sheriffs, deputies, as well as teachers, principals, and medical personnel. These checks are expected to arrive in the mail at some point in middle to late August, according to Governor DeSantis, and unlike the federal stimulus checks, will be taxable at the federal level. So, great news for residents in the state of Florida who fall into those categories, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see some other states follow suit. And next up, before I touch base on why some people may not have received the payment sent to millions of Americans' bank accounts last week, I wanted to quickly dive into the situation currently going on in Afghanistan. Since this weekend's takeover by the Taliban, a lot of very disturbing photos and videos have emerged, so please beware of some of the content you're about to see. Even though the Taliban has promised to respect women's rights and forgive those who fought against them, what we've seen so far hasn't exactly reflected that. According to The Sun, Taliban gangs are currently targeting children as young as 12 to marry against their will and forcing them into a life of slavery. Pictures of females in shop fronts are being painted over, and some shops apparently have notices warning women not to enter or they would face the consequences. According to CNN, after the Taliban demanded a woman cook for her and she failed to do so, she was brutally murdered. The Taliban knocked on her door 3 times. The 4th time, they killed her. Najia was at home with her 3 young sons and daughter in a small village in northern Afghanistan when Taliban fighters knocked on their door. Najia's daughter, Maniza, 25, knew they were coming. Her mother had told her they'd done the same thing the previous 3 days, demanding that she cook food for up to 15 fighters. Quote, "My mother told them, 'I am poor, how can I cook for you?' said Maniza. Then the Taliban started beating her. My mother collapsed and they hit her with their guns." Maniza says she yelled at the fighters to stop. They paused for a moment before throwing a grenade in the next room and fleeing as the flames spread, she said. The mother of 4 died from the beating. The deadly July 12th attack on Najia's home in Faryab province was a chilling preview of the threat now facing women across Afghanistan after the Taliban's takeover of the capital, Kabul. So obviously this is an incredibly sad article, and even though the Taliban is saying, hey, look guys, we're going to respect the rights of Afghan citizens, we're going to respect the rights of women, just from this story alone, it doesn't look like they're really respecting women all that much. A CNN news anchor said the Taliban were chanting, "Death to America," but that they seemed friendly at the same time.
People come up to them to pose for photographs.
Chanting "Death to America," but they seem friendly at the same time. It's utterly bizarre.
Yeah, seems like an incredibly friendly group of people. And while there are still approximately anywhere between 5 to 10,000 Americans near Kabul in Afghanistan, the Taliban has assured the White House that they will make sure that they arrive at the airport safely. Of course, hard to fully trust a terrorist organization. Here is one American currently stranded in Afghanistan explaining the current situation of trying to get out.
Let's bring in Haroon, who is our next guest. He and his family were supposed to return home to Colorado next week, but have lost all communication with their airline and with the U.S. Embassy. Haroon, thank you for joining us. I know you're stuck
in
Afghanistan. I'm sure you're feeling very scared. Tell us about your situation.
Hi, everyone. This is Haroon Zarwifi. I'm going by Z. I'm in Kabul. I was in the airport, Kabul airport 20 minutes ago. So I went to see if I can get in because I got an email from the embassy that says safely get yourself to the airport so we can get you in. But when I got there, there's thousands of people on the street and crazily walking around, and there's not easy at all to get on the gate, which is on the east side of the airport. That's not a normal gate. They just open it for us to get in. But there's a lot of people. It's really tough. It's really hard to get in.
Yeah. Who are they?
I tried a lot.
Haroon, who are the people trying to get in? Are they Afghan citizens looking to get out? Are they security? Are they Taliban?
There are Taliban on the roads. You can see all over there, too. And there's an Afghan, I think it's military, Afghan military, it looks like. They call it, I think it's the Unit 01. Actually, that was a good thing. Today, it's not a good thing, a bad thing. They broke my phone. I was making a video, and they took it and just hit it on the ground and broke it. So I was pissed, too. I was like, hey, I'm a citizen of America. I'm just trying to get in here. Yeah. So I thought it was bad. I was just went there to look if I can get an idea how to get in here. So I saw it was crowded, it's rush, it's Afghan citizens and Afghan permanent residents and Afghans who did work with American. They have their paperwork, their HIV packages in their hand, and they're just, it's their right. They just want to get out of Afghanistan. No one want to stay here. We all know what's going to happen next few days or next couple weeks after American leave Afghanistan. So everyone is scared, even include us that we already moved to America. But right. I have my family from both sides. They are waiting for their HIV to get approved. They have all the packages ready. Like my family, they were trying to go in there too because they know like our embassy, U.S. embassy, does not exist in Afghanistan anymore. Yeah. They have no idea where else they can go.
We've shown video of the Taliban yelling "Death to America." How do they respond to you when you tell them you're an American? I'm sure you're fearful.
I don't think anyone can say that. So like
you can't say it.
No, if I do say that, how am I gonna know? Because I'm not gonna get out of there. It's not just on the airport. I tell them, hey, bye. I'm going in because I'm an American. Yeah. No, I'm gonna come back home because there's no way. And also outside, there's no security for us. Even the American side or the Unit 01, they're shooting, blindly shooting right in front of the gate that you're supposed to get in. There's thousands of people. It's really hard with the 2 little children and all my other family. If I get them with me, like my parents, my brothers, my sisters, they're all under ages. So if I take them with me, how are we going to make it through thousands of people to get myself to an American? Like At least I have to go at 2 feet to tell them, hey, here's my passport. I cannot show my passport from 1,000 miles, from 1,000 feet away. Hey, I'm an American. How are they going to read it from that far?
Right.
So even if they do, how are they going to call me, come closer? Because those people are not going to let me. How are they going to rob me, check my passport, or take whatever I have, or if they can hit me with a knife or shoot me, whatever.
Haroon, the President of the United States will see this video of you later today. What would you like to say to Joe Biden about what is happening on the streets of Kabul, Afghanistan today?
My message to Biden is, please, as a right of human rights, as a people who serve for American, we put our life in danger, help them, and to help them for their goals. Now we need Biden or whoever has the power. Please help all these families that they're on the street and their kids are not deserving this. They help you and they help America and they help the world. So they put their life in risk to help the world to do the right thing. This is what my family did. I'm not talking just about my family, so it's going to be personal, but I'm talking about all those people. They're right behind the airport. 80% of them, they have paperwork that proves they did work with American. They did work with American. And now the Taliban are right there. They're seeing them every day with their paperwork. How you know they can videotape every one of those guys, and when you leave next month, they can one by one and get them out of their homes and kill them. Who knows that? So they have the proof. They're showing the paperwork from 100 feet away. So please take all this and find a good way to take them all out.
Haroon, we saw images of a man in the back of a truck on the way to the airport getting beaten. We saw images of a woman that was dead on the ground. She didn't wear her headpiece, her burqa. So she was killed for that, lying in a puddle of blood. We're hearing that there are gunshots being fired outside. Another guy was stabbed at the airport. Have you seen any of this? Describe what you're seeing.
Since yesterday evening when I was going to the airport, I see a lot of families that they brought their women on the street too, being waiting. I should say, like homeless people. They've been sleeping on the street, waiting for and praying to someone come help them to get them inside with their paperwork. They have all their paperwork. I saw a lot of them. But what's happening? The Taliban, they're just looking at them. They're killing everyone. Look at these people. They're pimps. They're this and they're this. They're kind of giving them a bad word because like, where are you going? So like, why you have your lady out? They have to bring them out. They have to bring their kids out. So like, it looks like they're just acting like they don't care. They want democracy, but it's not true. It looks like they're giving people a hard time, but they're just slowing down a little bit. There is nothing changing. There's no difference between before.
So just an incredibly sad situation all around, not just for the Americans still stranded there, but for the Afghans stuck there with all the uncertainty for the future. Okay, so moving on to some other news. Just last week, many Americans should have received the second batch of child tax credit payments. Just as a reminder, these would have been for $300 for those with children under the age of 6. Then, for those with children ages 6 to 17, you should have received $250. From many reports, though, a lot of people never ended up receiving the money via direct deposit as they expected. This is because of a technical issue on the IRS's side that caused many people who should have received direct deposits to instead be issued a check in the mail. Per the Treasury website, as was the case last month, the vast majority of families received their August payments by direct deposit, and the remainder will receive checks in the mail. Due to a technical issue expected to be resolved by the September payments, a small percentage of recipients, less than 15%, who receive payments by direct deposit in July will be mailed paper checks for the August payment. Families can visit the Child Tax Credit Update portal to see if they're receiving a direct deposit or paper check this month. So again, if you would like to make 100% sure that you will still be receiving a check in the mail this month and you haven't received it already, you can always check the Child Tax Credit Update portal where it should give you all that information. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you enjoyed the content in today's video and feel that I deserve a like, I would greatly appreciate you doing so, and also feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. And finally, before I go, don't forget to grab your 2 free stocks from Webull valued up to $2,300 by clicking my link in the description box below. Once you open an account with Webull, you will receive the first free stock valued up to $300. Then, once you make a deposit of at least $5, yes, just $5, at that point, Webull will send you the second free stock, this one being valued up to $2,000. Once you receive the 2 free stocks, at that point, you can either use the $5 you deposited to invest in more stocks, or you can simply transfer that money right back into your bank account. If you'd like, you could even sell the free stocks you received for whatever amount they're worth and transfer that money right back into your bank account as well. So, free stocks or free money, however you would like to think of it. And before I ramble on too much longer, I want to wish you a great day ahead, and I'll see you in the next video.